Hey guys, this is take 2 of the pilot.
Dos. Is it recording?
It is recording, so I tell you, we recorded this entire show
For about an hour.
And then we look at our equipment, and I realize I did not hit the record button. So, here we go.
Yes, the record button is the button with the red dot that
It's
says
the red
REC.
dot, and we are moving. We are 29 seconds in now, so I think we're good.
All right, good.
Welcome to the Highlysober, the Highlysober Hangout movie review. Today we will be reviewing the 1988 film Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Who did it?
And we're going to go around. We're going to introduce ourselves. First, we have J.J. Harmon.
Hello. Yes, I'm JJ Harmon. I am an actress, dancer, writer, all that good stuff.
I'm Sam White. I'm an independent filmmaker. I direct, write, produce, edit, a little bit of everything. Occasionally, I could be convinced to act. Yeah.
And I am your host. I am Gerald. I am an actor, writer, producer, and film enthusiast.
And Captain of Awesome.
Captain of Awesome.
Captain of Awesome.
I know where that record button is, baby.
Yeah.
And today we are reviewing the 1988 Who Framed Roger Rabbit, directed by Robert Zemeckis of Back to the Future, Forrest Gump, and Castaway fame. It's based on the novel Who Censored Roger Rabbit by Gary K. Wolfe and stars Bob Hoskins, Christopher Lloyd, and Joanna Cassidy, and features the voice talents of many, including Mel Blanc, Lou Hirsch, Mae Questel, Kathleen Turner as Jessica Rabbit, and Charles Fleischer as the main character, Roger Rabbit.
Mommy's going to the beauty parlor, darling. But I'm leaving you with your favorite friend, Roger. He's going to take very, very good care of you. Because if he doesn't, he's going back to the science lab.
Cut! What the hell was wrong with that take? Nothing with you, baby Herman. You were great. You were perfect. You were better than perfect. This Roger, he keeps blowing his lines. Roger, what's this? A tweeting bird? Tweeting bird? Roger, read the script. Look what it says. It says rabbit gets clunked. Rabbit sees stars. Not birds. Stars! Can we lose the playback, please? You're killing me. For crying out loud, Roger. How the hell many times do we have to do this damn scene? Raoul, I'll be in my trailer. Taking a nap. Excuse me,
Please, Raoul, I can give you stars. Just drop the refrigerator in my head one more time.
Drink up on your head 23 times already.
I can take it. Don't worry about me.
I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about the refrigerator.
This is the tale of an up-and-coming movie star named Roger Rabbit and a down-and-out private detective named Eddie Valiant.
Booga booga.
Every moment they were together was a new adventure in trouble.
Hide me, Eddie. Please.
It's a motion picture about friendship,
I get easy. Please, Eddie. Don't show me out. You're making a big mistake.
love, compassion,
Well, I'm sorry I yanked your ears.
All the time you yanked my ears.
murder,
Marvin Acme. The rabbit cacked him last night.
Remember, you never saw me.
sex,
I'd do anything for my husband, Mr. Valiant. Anything.
and violence.
Tunes gets him every time.
You wouldn't have any idea where the rabbit might be?
Got a thing for rabbits. The whole thing stinks like yesterday's diapers.
It's a comedy a little different from all the rest.
I'm a pig. I'm a tune.
I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way.
But tell me, Eddie, is that a rabbit in your pocket or you're just happy to see me?
Touchstone Pictures and Steven Spielberg present a Robert Zemeckis film,
We tunes may act idiotic, but we're not stupid.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit is a 1988 fantasy comedy film directed by Robert Zemeckis. The film combines live action and animation in a world which depicts a world in which cartoon characters interact indirectly with directly with
I was gonna
human
say.
beings. Who Framed Roger Rabbit stars Bob Hoskins as a private detective, Eddie Valiant, who investigates a murder involving the famous cartoon character Roger Rabbit. The film co-stars Charles Fleischer as the character's voice, Christopher Lloyd as Judge Doom, the villain, Kathleen Turner as the voice of Roger Rabbit's wife, Jessica Rabbit, and Joanna.
Uncredited.
Yeah, which I don't understand.
Blows my mind.
It's because she's a woman.
Did you also know that she was like several months pregnant
Was she really?
when she recorded the voice of Jessica Rabbit?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Fun little tip.
You know, this is going to sound weird. When I was little, I had a crush on Kathleen Turner. It seems weird today.
It's that voice.
The voice, yeah.
It's her
What's weird
voice.
about that?
I know.
Have you seen Body
There's
Heat?
nothing wrong
Yeah,
with that.
Romancing the Stone, all that. Like,
Yeah.
she was.
You know, I knew Kathleen Turner. At my last job, she was like a regular customer, and she used to come in all the time. And I think she really got tired because like every time she would come in, either me or the other guy I worked with, Bruce, would be like, "Oh God, I loved you in Body Heat."
And she's gonna hear this podcast. And
she's
like,
gonna
I'm
hear this.
suing you.
Walt Disney Productions purchased the film rights to the story in 1981. Jeffrey Price and Peter S. Seaman wrote two drafts. Two drafts of the script before Disney brought in executive producer Steven Spielberg with his Amblin Entertainment becoming the production company. Disney released the film through its Touchstone Pictures division on June 22nd, 1988 to financial success and positive reviews. And Who Framed Roger Rabbit spurred a renewed interest in the golden age of American animation and spearheaded the modern era of American animation, especially what is considered to be the Disney Renaissance. So guys, what is your history with this film?
Ladies first.
All right. My history is actually funny. I have two older siblings. They're much older than me. So as a kid, I watched a lot of movies, probably way too young. And Who Framed Roger Rabbit was actually one of the first films I actually remember watching as a kid. I think I was probably about 6.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it. And still to this day, it's one of my favorite films. And again, that might be why, or that might explain why there's a lot wrong with me. But yeah, as a kid, I definitely loved this movie, and was definitely, Jessica Rabbit was my first female crush. I didn't know it then. I didn't know what it was, but today I do. And yeah, and I think we talked about this before, where it's like I really think that Jessica Rabbit fueled the lesbian community to what it is today, because I know I'm not alone in loving Jessica Rabbit at 6 years old. But yeah, that's sort of my history with it. I saw it when I was real little, and I've loved it ever since.
I have sort of an unusual relationship because I just saw it about 2 days ago for the first time. I had seen...
It's crazy.
It's a little kooky, yeah.
How are you a child of the 80s and you never saw this movie?
I wasn't a child of the 80s. I was born 1990.
Oh, crap. Well, then there's the answer. There's our answer right there.
No, but I had seen clips of it. I knew a fair amount about it because I love movies. But I had never really taken the time to sit down and watch it all the way through. So I'm coming at it with a pretty fresh perspective. And for me... the film, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very entertaining. I like that it has cross-generational appeal. The adults like it, the kids like it. And on the one hand, you have a movie that is so technically brilliant. I mean, the sheer amount of work that went into creating those special effects is astounding. And even today, it's kind of unmatched in terms of how they did what they did, and we'll probably get into that later. As just a movie, as just a piece of entertainment and a story, I think that sometimes it falls into the trap of style over substance. The story is much sort of lighter and fluffier. And I think sometimes you get distracted from it simply because of how astounding the special effects are. So that's sort of a... I hate to call it a flaw, but it is... you know, you guys are talking about it. because you saw it as kids and were just blown away by it, and you fell in love with the characters. And this, I'm coming at it as an adult and sort of analyzing it more than anything. So that for me took me out of the movie a little bit, but it's still an excellent movie, and I enjoyed myself all the way through.
Well, that's funny. It's a funny thing to talk about because it's like...
I'm going to get rid of the spoon in my tea because it's going to keep making noise the whole way through.
But one of the funny things about what you were kind of saying, Sam, is you coming in as an adult for seeing it for the first time. It's one of those movies where you see it as a kid, and it's one movie, and then you rewatch it again as an adult, and it's a completely different movie. It's like watching a movie again for the first time.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think that's definitely an interesting piece too.
I know for me, it was like Roger Rabbit still is one of my top 10 favorite movies.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember a time in my life where I didn't know about this movie, and I don't remember the first time I ever watched it. But I remember just being a kid and like when the movie was on and rewatching or playing the video game, the idea that
There was a video game?
there was a Nintendo video game. It was awesome.
Stop it.
It's awesome, yeah. Absolutely. If I can find it, I'll find it for you
I
guys.
don't know about that.
Nintendo game. Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where you were Ellie Valiant and you were running from the weasels and you would go into all these different worlds and stuff. It was awesome.
Damn.
Yeah. You need to learn. But the idea that like you could sit down and talk to like a cartoon character was just like mind blowing for me. Cause
Wait, you can't?
I don't know. Like I
do
know
it all the time.
my doctor gives me pills and
Right?
I'm going out with SpongeBob tonight. We're hitting the town.
Right? That party up.
Yeah. But yeah, like I loved it, and growing up and being like a huge fan of like Sesame Street, where you see kids walking around talking to Big Bird and Elmo and Oscar the Grouch, to actually see that like in a movie for me was amazing. So absolutely, I loved it. And the plot. Let's talk about the plot. In 1947, cartoon characters commonly called toons are living beings who act out cartoons the same way that human actors make live-action productions. Toons interact freely with humans and live in Toontown, an area near Hollywood, California. R.K. Maroon is a human owner of Maroon Cartoons. Roger Rabbit is a fun-loving toon rabbit, one of Maroon's stars. Roger's wife, Jessica Rabbit, is a gorgeous toon woman, and Baby Herman is Roger's co-star,
Baby Herman.
a 50-year-old toon who looks like an infant. Marvin Acme is a practical joke-loving owner of Toontown and Acme Corporation. Maroon hires private detective Eddie Valiant to investigate rumors that Jessica is having an extramarital affair.
Whore.
Eddie and his brother Teddy used to be friends of the toon community, but Eddie has hated them and has been drinking heavily since Teddy was killed by a toon a few years earlier.
When a piano was dropped on him.
Yeah.
The piano was dropped on his head.
Him. And actually, it hit Eddie, too. It got his arm.
It did get his arm. That's right.
In the movie, he discusses that.
When Eddie shows Roger photographs of Jessica cheating on him...
Patty cake.
Baker's man with Acme, Roger becomes distraught and runs away. This makes him the prime suspect when Acme is found murdered the next day at the crime scene. Eddie meets Judge Doom and his Toon patrol of weasel henchmen. Although toons are impervious to physical abuse, Doom has discovered that they can be killed by submerging them in a mixture of solvents he refers as the dip. Baby Herman insists that Acme's will, which is missing, bequeaths Toontown to the toons. If his will is not found by midnight, Toontown will be sold to Cloverleaf Industries, which recently brought the Pacific Electric System and trolley cars. And a slew of events happen, and at the end, Eddie, Jessica, and Roger are captured by Doom and his weasels and held at Acme Factory, while Doom reveals his plan. Since he owns Cloverleaf and Acme's will has yet to turn up, he will take control of Toontown and destroy it with a mobile dip sprayer to make room for a freeway, then force people to use it by dismantling the trolley fleet and make a fortune through a series of businesses built to appeal to motorists. With Roger and Jessica tied up, Eddie performs a vaudeville act that makes all but one of the weasels literally die of laughter. Doom survives being run over by a steamroller, revealing himself that he is a toon, and admits that he killed Teddy, who was Eddie's brother. And as Eddie eventually dissolves Doom in the dip by opening up a drain on the dip machine. As the Toons and police arrive, Eddie discovers that an apparently blank piece of paper on which Roger wrote a love poem to Jessica is actually Acme's will, written in disappearing, reappearing ink. Eddie kisses Roger, proving that he has regained his sense of humor, and the Toons celebrate their victory.
Side note, because I thought about it when you were talking about the whole patty cake thing.
Sure.
Did anybody else, or does anybody else, think that the gorilla at the club is fucking hilarious?
Wise ass.
Wise ass. Like that, for me, cracks me up every single time. Every single time I see it. Just that nice monkey suit. Wise ass. Makes me laugh every single time.
I like the scotch on the rocks.
And it's actual
and
rocks.
They bring them rocks and stuff. As a lover of scotch, I found that amusing.
Funny. Nice. So what did you guys think about the plot? Taking cartoon characters, making them actors, going back to the 1940s Hollywood?
I really... the plot is interesting for me because, and this has been stated by the writers and of the film and whatnot, it is lifted very much from Chinatown, the 74, 75 neo-noir classic. And the whole film owes a really big debt to film noir movies. And I really like that because film noir is my thing, and I just, that home. And then in Walk the Dame type story. So I enjoyed the plot. Again, somewhat predictable for me. I saw most of the twists coming. So, again, that's where I go back to I think it's more style over substance. But I enjoyed the nostalgia of it. The nostalgia of this is, an old-time detective story. And I loved the L.A. setting. I mean, they really make L.A. in the 40s as much a character in the film as Bob Hoskins or Roger Rabbit or that. So, good times.
Yes, I agree with everything. No. As far as the plot goes, I actually, again, it's as a kid, the plot I thought was fantastic. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then, yes, as you rewatch it again as an adult, it's like, wow, how did I not figure that out? Or, oh my God, it's so simple. But I think that's, again, why it appeals to such a large audience. Yeah. It's like, yes, it's for kids and it's for adults. There is a lot of adult humor and innuendo in it. But again, the plot itself it's not, so complex that it's difficult to figure out. You kind of see these things coming. But as a kid, you don't see that coming. And like I said, as a kid, I don't even remember what half the movie was about. I just loved it. But then as an adult and actually paying attention to the plot, I liked it too. And again, like what Sam was saying is the time period and location, I think, is what made the movie just as fantastic as the characters themselves. Because I think if they had shot it in a different year, it might not be the same because of the whole detective aspect to it. So I enjoyed the plot.
I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
I really loved it. I loved, you're taking a lot of elements, like you said, from film noir and this genre of detective films. And I love how they stay true to that. And then what it is, it's not like a cartoon movie. It's a movie where cartoon characters are in it.
Yep.
And I think that's the difference between this and other movies that I think seem to follow in this. It's more of a cartoon with humans, and this is a human story with cartoons. And I think it's fun. And I think it's funny that you said that you figured it out before the end, because I think, like, seeing it as an adult, you could do that. But even as a kid, and even to this day, like, I think if I saw it, like, when Christopher Lloyd shows up on the screen, it's like, this is a shiesty guy. But I wouldn't have pictured that he was a toon. That threw me for a loop. I remember.
Well, actually, I think in some of I don't know if it was the book or the movie version. I don't know if they changed, if they were trying to change it for the movie version, or if it was actually something from the book when they wrote the novel. It was actually Jessica Rabbit and Baby Herman in one draft. That was the villain.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it wasn't Judge Doom. And I don't know. I think that would have made it a completely different movie.
Yeah. But it's some way, because that is a film, though, in some ways that would have been almost too typical, because in film noir, there's a long tradition of, you think the girl shows up, she needs the detective's help, and then it turns out she's really been the bad girl all along and stuff. But that actually got overdone in film noir, and so I think when you still do it, it actually kind of, it can be just a cliche.
Well, it is. So. It's always the woman.
It's always the woman. Blame the women.
It's always the women. It's the woman's fault.
What do you guys think of the cast? Christopher Lloyd as the bad guy.
Perfect.
Doom.
Great acting. Probably my favorite performance in the movie. Although, interesting bit of trivia, Tim Curry did audition for the role and was so scary that they decided they couldn't cast him. It would be too much.
He's a creepy dude.
Oh, God. Just brilliant actor. And it's because I love Christopher Lloyd, too, and I think the fact that he seems to have kind of vanished in recent years is just a shame.
Crying shame.
But, yeah, I would have been very interested to see Tim Curry's performance as Judge Doom. I think it would have been
It would have changed the tone.
It would have changed the tone of the film.
Definitely would have changed it. Yeah.
I think him, like, he has just sleazy written all over him. I remember watching this miniseries back in like the late '90s, and it was Titanic, and it was like, I think it came out a year before like Titanic the movie came out, and it's the Titanic's going down, and Tim Curry plays this. He plays like one of the butlers or handlers or something. I forget what you call them on the Titanic. And the Titanic's going down, and his whole thing is like, as it's going down, he wants to steal all the rich people's money. And in the process of this, there is this like third-class passenger that is this chick that he likes. And as the Titanic's going down,
she kills him.
No, well,
she's the villain.
I don't know. It's so messed up. He rapes this woman in the shower as the Titanic is going down.
Oh my God!
And it was it was.
Wow.
It was just so weird, and from that and seeing him in like Home Alone 2, like every time this dude shows up, he's just
creepy.
But that would have been interesting to see. Bob Hoskins.
What can you say? But I think I don't think you could have picked. I knew that they had several other actors in mind to play Eddie Valiant, like Bill Murray, I think, was one. Robert Redford was another. There was Harrison Ford. There was quite a few that were up for that, but I think Bob Hoskins did a great job. Especially because if you think about it, 88 or 87, I guess, is when they might have started production on this. If you're thinking about that time period, we're so spoiled now with all the technology that it's like green screen and all that other stuff, and it's so common for an actor these days to be trained in working in green screen and being trained to do a scene where there isn't anyone else there in reality. So to think about it, like back when he was doing this film and having to act out these actually physical scenes with something that was not there.
It's blazing the trail.
It blazed that trail. And he definitely brought, as far as an acting thing goes, he definitely brought a good amount of emotion to it too, especially in regards to like his brother dying and even feeling the relationship between him and I can't believe I'm blanking on the actress's name.
Oh, the
one that
Dolores.
plays
Dolores.
She having that element too. Like I think he did a beyond fantastic job.
Well, and he's playing an alcoholic too.
And he's playing an alcoholic,
which is kind of a again, we go back to an actor cliche, but it's not easy.
No.
It is tricky, and he does it very well.
What I think he brings to it is like when I was saying, it's a human story with cartoon characters in it.
He really grounds it.
He grounds it, and he plays it so truthfully.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like it's not like you don't see in the back of his head. He's like, yeah, I'm on this production. There's all these cartoon characters. And I don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
So I'm like overplay everything so I can be like. He's not a cartoon character. Like
like he didn't take it to like a theater level performance versus
Exactly.
a film level performance. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, one bit of trivia is when they were on set, the actor who voices Roger Rabbit, Charles Fleischer, is actually dressed in a rabbit suit the entire time, and he's off camera feeding his lines to Bob Hoskins, and when they weren't shooting, he would walk around, the studio lot in that rabbit outfit, and other people who knew about this movie and in the 80s, like live action, it's animation, like this is a flop. When they would see him in the rabbit suit, they're like, "Oh, there's that Roger Rabbit movie."
That movie's gonna bomb completely. Well, that's what I do when I'm on a movie set.
Yeah.
When I'm on a sound lot, I walk around in a bunny costume.
There you go. Well, that's what happens when you work for Playboy. Other actors who were considered for the role of Eddie Valiant: Jack Nicholson, like I said, Robert Redford, Harrison Ford, Dustin Hoffman, and picture this, Sylvester Stallone.
See, that's
I
something
don't want to picture
imagine.
that.
No.
That's
No way.
just...
Hey, Roger.
Hey, Roger. Hey, Roger. He would try to bang Jessica.
Yeah.
He might get her too.
He would. But here's the only good upside for him if he actually took the role. They wouldn't have to, put him on a box to be in a scene with Jessica Rabbit.
That is absolutely true.
Like he had to do for every movie of his entire career because the man's only like 5 feet tall.
Well, I think Jessica Rabbit was like tall. Like remember when
she's tall.
She was taller than Bob Hoskins still.
Yeah.
But Bob Hoskins owned his shortness.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Whereas
and his hairy back.
Sylvester Stallone
can't be short.
He refused to own the fact that he was a shorty.
He was an action star. I think it's the same with like Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Like, and you got these leading ladies
that are like 5'6".
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's hilarious. Really, really, dude, you're gonna stand on a box in a scene.
John Wayne wore lifts in his shoes.
That's
crazy.
Imagine, so this is the way the movie ends with Sylvester Stallone. He's running out of Toontown. It's blowing up behind him. Yep. He has Roger in his arms. He jumps. He's like, oh! And that's the end.
Yeah.
No more Toontown.
No more Toontown. Doom 1.
And I saw this on Inside the Actor Studio. Like, the first person to actually be cast, to be offered the role, was Eddie Murphy.
Which I think is interesting.
That would have been a very different movie, but it would have been, I think, a good one.
Yeah, I think it would have done well with him, absolutely. But it would have been a very different movie.
Been very different. I think it would. I mean, it's they would have strayed from script a lot more because it's just Eddie Murphy is notorious for like he comes onto a production and then the writers kind of
right
around him like they did with Beverly Hills Cop, where like I think 75% of that movie is improv because he was cast like a week before they start shooting.
It would have been difficult to do it with Eddie Murphy though because he is so improvisational. Because this movie had to be planned to the T from beginning to end. All through, it had to be exact because what they were, the way it was made, all the technical stuff. They had to know exactly what they were doing from moment to moment. And with Eddie Murphy, you've got a wild card. You never know what you're going to get from him each take. So it might have made the technical process more difficult, and the movie might have suffered as a result, which is no fault of Eddie's because Eddie is a brilliant performer, and he's you hire him because of his improvisation skills. But I think ultimately it was probably good that Eddie turned it down.
Yeah, and another thing, too, like, because we were just talking about Hoskins and the role of Eddie Valiant, I couldn't see, especially 80s Eddie Murphy, pulling off such a serious role, and I think it was very important that Eddie had that level of seriousness because the backstory is they were jokers. He and his brother were jokers.
Yeah.
They were raised by their dad in Ringling Brothers. So it's like there was this funny element to Eddie Valiant before we meet him. And when we do meet him, and through the majority of the film, one of the biggest issues was he lost it. He lost his funny bone and was very serious. And I don't think Eddie Murphy could have delivered that, especially the whole being an alcoholic and being very serious. I think that would have been an ultimate challenge.
I don't know if that's a problem, but the thing you get with that is Eddie Murphy is playing the straight guy to Roger Rabbit.
Exactly.
When
I think
normally
would have been
he's the Joker to in 48 Hours. You know, it's a buddy cop movie, but he is
Or Shrek. I mean,
Shrek.
Donkey is always stealing the show from Shrek.
Yeah.
But especially 80s Eddie Murphy,
When he's-
stand-up comedian, 80s Murphy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was he was saying that he was offered the role and he had the script and people were telling about him and he was like so there's cartoons and there's people, this sounds like bullshit. And then he says he watched the movie and he says even to this day he looks at it and he's like, he feels like an asshole because he turned it down.
Yeah.
He's angry.
Angry.
Which is why he pretty much takes every movie after that. Like when they offered him Shrek, it was the same thing. He's like, so there's a donkey and an ogre. Like what is this?
Freaking donkey, man.
They're like, remember Who Framed Roger Rabbit? He's like, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then Roger Rabbit fact: Paul Rubens in 1984, Pee Wee Herman was actually the first person
See, that blows my mind.
actually cast as Roger Rabbit.
Yeah.
And then when the production started, he had his TV show and he couldn't do it.
I think that was a good call.
Oh, yeah.
Because Roger Rabbit had to be an original. He couldn't be. That would have been...
That would have been weird.
It would have been weird, and I don't think I think it would have taken some of the charm away from it because Pee Wee Herman is just so strange that sometimes it's a bit of a turnoff.
Yeah.
But Roger Rabbit is a very lovable character. Even when he's being ridiculous and sometimes just plain stupid. And he can get on your nerves a bit, but you always come back and you're like, but he's
adorable.
Roger.
He's lovable.
It's
Yeah.
Roger.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. What do you guys think of Roger Rabbit? This made-up character for this story.
Well, I think kind of like a lot of the cartoon characters in this film, especially the original ones, not the ones that they pulled from Disney or Warner Brothers, is the ones that were created for this film in particular. They were drawn up and based off.
I'm just checking to make sure it's recording.
Are we good?
We're good.
All right, guys.
We're a half hour in. I'm just making sure.
But yeah, a lot of these cartoon characters for this film were created for this film, and Roger Rabbit was one of them. And it had been said that when drawing Roger, when illustrating him, they took elements from all cartoons at that point, specific parts of him. Like what was it? His head was Disney, and his body was based off of a character cartoon character from another, like Looney Tunes, which I think is fantastic. And as far as the character itself, I mean, he's lovable. You know what I mean? And he is very different than Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
Very Bugs Bunny is very smart. You know what I mean? He's Bugs Bunny knows what's happening, whereas Roger, he doesn't know what's going on.
Bugs Bunny's an original gangster. He's an OG.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't mess with Bugs. Whereas Roger's just a goof. He is like we were talking about earlier, goofy. You know, I think he embodies Goofy's characteristics a lot more than.
Oddly enough, I think I made this clear earlier, but I do really like the character Roger Rabbit. He's very lovable, and he's this great blend of different animated characters. But I feel like he is upstaged in the movie. He's not the most interesting character to me. To me, that's sort of a toss-up between Jessica Rabbit and Judge Doom, who I think are scene stealers in a way that he never quite manages to be. He's very funny, he's very lovable, but those to me were the characters that stood out as, and they're both tunes, they really stood out to me as just stealing the show right and left. Yeah, so.
I know, it's interesting that you say that, because I think that's cool, because I think too much of Roger,
it would get annoying.
It would have been too much, yeah.
And not enough, you're like, well, what's the point? So I think they really got that percentage right.
Yeah.
with Roger Rabbit, where you're saying he's taken on different parts. I think his ears are Bugs Bunny, and I think his bow tie is Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, and then I think his like demeanor is like Felix, and his actual clothing is Mickey Mouse, and so he's a hybrid blend of all those famous cartoon characters from that day. And then like I think I was saying his whole shtick I think is goofy.
It's goofy.
It's goofy. Yeah. It's slapstick comedy. I'm trying to this. I got the best intentions, but it just doesn't work out, and I fall and I slip, and I think. And you brought up earlier is that scene when they're in the movie theater.
Yeah, where they have the Goofy cartoon in the background, which is again it goes back to the time period that we were discussing. The year this was shot, or the year this was supposed to be taking place, which I believe was 74.
No, 47.
I'm sorry, 47. Jeez,
one of those years.
Psychedelic Roger Rabbit.
Anyway, the Goofy cartoon that was playing in the background, which is a fun little fact, was not released until 2 years after when this was supposed to be set. But then again, like we were talking about earlier, is a lot of the cartoons that were in this film actually did not come out yet, according to the time period of this film.
Absolutely.
That's easy to forgive, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I guess there would be like 10 cartoon characters. Yeah, because cartoons didn't have their renaissance till a little bit later. But Jessica Rabbit.
Hello.
Jessica,
oh God.
Please.
Yes, please.
Jessica Rabbit, and I think you were saying she was. Based off of her body is Rita Hayworth?
She was based off of a number of things.
Rita Hayworth is clearly a big
Well, I think Rita Hayworth was actually the only human reference that they used, because the rest were cartoon.
Sure.
But Rita Hayworth was definitely an influence in illustrating her. Actually, it was all redheads, which I found was very interesting. Because I mean, have you read the novel of this?
No, I haven't.
Neither have I. So I'm actually intrigued. I might go back and read the novel version of this, because I wonder if Jessica was written visually this way.
Yeah.
Or if she was described visually at all. I imagine she would be.
Well, the thing that this is the first time we see quote unquote Jessica Rabbit. But there's a similar character in old cartoons, all the wolf cartoons, like Little Red Riding Hood, and she plays the nurse, and she's Little Red Riding Hood, and it's kind of like this.
Hello, nurse.
Hello, exactly. And so they don't specify that this is that character,
right?
But because I think they actually make a joke of it, in Toontown when there's another.
Well, the ugly version of Jessica,
version of her.
Yeah. But she was definitely pulled. There was definitely a lot of influence on illustrating her. But what's funny, and a funny little fact, is her boobs. Her boobs. The illustrator for that, they did. He wanted her boobs to move in a way that would stand out. So he did the opposite of what a human woman's boobs would do when she moved. So when a human woman is walking, the way our boobs go, he did the exact opposite for her. So they would really stand out, which I thought was very funny. But yeah, and then Hello, Do Me Right, that performance.
I play patty cake with her any day.
Me too.
That brings up an interesting question, though, because the movie is... Jessica Rabbit is a prime example, but there's a lot of innuendo and adult humor worked in through it that flies over the kids' heads. But does it ever take it too far? Does it cross some kind of line where it's like, well, it's really not for kids anymore? Because kids have enjoyed this movie for years and years. But I think today, if it came out, they would probably have to make it a PG-13 movie.
Oh yeah.
There would be too much backlash from it otherwise.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, because if it were today, and we talked about this before, if Roger Rabbit were SpongeBob and he had this bombastic wife, and you brought up when Christopher Lloyd and Dr. Doom is dipping the
poor innocent shoe,
the shoe into the dip, that's crazy. And if that had been Boots from Dora the Explorer, then this movie doesn't come out.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. It falls back again. It's one of those things where it's like it's based on if and when. If this movie came out today, it would receive either that type of rating or it would just bomb.
Yeah.
And it would receive a huge amount of backlash, I think.
I think it's because this is a film, and especially for the time that it came out in the 80s, where you didn't necessarily have to have a child to go see this movie.
No.
You know, like it's rooted in the 40s, so like an older couple, like 50, 60-year-old a couple would go see this because one, it's their time frame. They remember Betty Boop, the music and the whole like atmosphere, and then everyone at that time knew who Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny were, and to see them on film together, that's a huge undertaking.
Thing. Yeah.
It's almost like what's going on now with you're gonna have Batman and Superman in the same movie, and you don't necessarily need a kid to go and be excited about this.
Well, and that's the thing, and like actually, this was the first film, and it might even still be the only film to ever have Disney characters and Looney Tunes together.
Yeah. And that was a big deal.
And that's a huge deal. And so, and again, kind of like what I was saying before, is it's like, as far as like releasing it now and the sexual innuendos and adult humor, as a kid, for me personally, again, when I watched it as a kid versus when I watched it as an adult, it was two different movies for me. Because as a kid, you don't know about half of this stuff, so it's like it goes right over your head, and it's one movie. And then as an adult, you rewatch it, and it's something else.
I think they it's a little safe too, because I think for all this adult stuff that's going on in the movie, your main character Roger Rabbit serves as the kid. He's a kid. He's sitting in there. He's watching the Goofy cartoons, and then a newsreel comes up. He's like, oh, another newsreel. He's the kid. So he's that. There's an innocence about him in this world and what's going on with him, which I think
drink alcohol without losing.
He can't drink alcohol without losing his mind. He's sitting in the bar and he's singing about songs and he's doing these dances, and there's this whole love connection between Eddie and his woman and Dolores, and Roger is essentially their kid for the movie. So I think that kind of keeps it at even bad.
It's a nice balance.
Nice balance of it. Hey, you were talking about, what were you just talking about? You're talking about the other characters like in this movie and how it's like Walt Disney and Warner Brothers. And something interesting about that is that when Walt Disney was going out and getting the rights to all these other MGM characters and characters like that, when it came to Warner Brothers was okay with letting them use their characters. But when it came to like Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, there was like a lot of negotiating going on where they wouldn't release it. They wouldn't release them unless they got the same amount of time on screen as like Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck.
Right.
Which is why they appear on screen like together. They're playing the piano or they're falling off the building at the same time. They have the same amount of screen time, the same amount of lines, and one talks after the other. What was that like just for you to see these guys on screen together? Was that...
Well,
you just saw it a couple days ago?
I knew about that beforehand, and I'd known about it for years. Like I said, I wasn't oblivious to the movie's existence. I knew a lot about it. So, I mean, it was really cool. I know I'll never have that experience that audiences had in the 80s seeing it for the first time, and that's a little disappointing.
It's amazing to me, even to this day. Like, I was watching it before we recorded this, and when Eddie's like falling out down the building in the air, and then all of a sudden you see like Bugs Bunny come to Mickey Mouse. Like first you see the ears come into the frame, and then Bugs Bunny comes in the frame, and they're there. Like that's just like I still get chills when I see that because it's just like
those two together. Yeah,
those two together, even more so than like the Donald Duck, Daffy Duck. But to see like Mickey Mouse's ears and then Bugs Bunny ears come in. And he's like, oh, poor fellow. And he's like, ain't that a stinker? Like, that's just...
Yeah.
That's not a bad Mickey Mouse.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
It's just amazing. I don't know. I love it. And then some characters that appear in the movie from Walt Disney are like Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, Minnie Mouse, Daisy Duck, Goofy, Pluto, Bucky Buck. Who is that? Bucky Buck? Yeah, Bucky Buck. But, like, yeah, all these characters. Snow White's in there. Pinocchio, Jiminy Cricket, Dumbo, Dumbo shows up in the movie, and then
Dumbo works for peanuts.
He works for peanuts.
And then like Tinkerbell and all these other people. And then Warner Brothers has Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Elmer Fudd, Porky Pig, Wile E. Coyote, and Roadrunner. You see their shadows, Speedy Gonzales. And then from MGM, you had Droopy and Spike and Betty Boop and Woody Woodpecker. And it's Felix the Cat. It's just like, it's amazing. And something that I think about with all these people is, especially when you compare this to today, and basically, like, our today's versions of these cartoon characters are comic book characters.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, if Disney was able to get all these characters for this movie in the 80s, and now Disney owns Marvel, do you ever think that, like, they could possibly bring, like, a Superman into the same realm as, like, Captain America, and then get Spider-Man?
Not anytime in the near future.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
It's coming. They're blending Superman and Batman now, so it'll come some, but I don't think it'll be in this film generation. I think that'll be the next one. That'll be our kids, as,
big thing.
preteens.
Yeah.
The Marvel DC movie.
What's funny, though, you going through that list, it's something that sort of just dawned on me. How Disney and Warner Brothers, or how basically it's like if they invented one character that was a duck, the other one invented a character that was a duck. If one invented, you know what I mean? It's like they each had a rebuttal character for each other. It's like, you got Bugs Bunny, well, we got this guy.
Well, it's like what Pixar and DreamWorks have been doing for years.
Which I think is very interesting.
Ants in a Bug's Life.
It's crazy. But another side little note is, because you brought up Snow White, the weasels in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, there were supposed to be 7 of them, actually, to mimic the 7 Dwarfs. Mm-hmm. But I don't know why they didn't end up doing that.
Because it would have been a ton
of weasels.
That's a lot of people. That's a lot of weasels.
That's a lot of weasels.
Yeah.
It's going to mean the vaudeville act that gets them to laugh to death has to go on for like forever to kill all of them.
Yeah.
And all those characters walking around that apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Because they make use of the apartment when they're looking for Roger.
Yeah.
And I think 4 is enough.
Definitely enough.
Yeah. But another thing I wanted to ask is, like, today, if you were going to cast this movie today, who would you cast?
Me.
Of course.
Yes.
Jessica Rabbit.
J.J. Harmon is.
Yeah. Although, no, I don't know. Because, Kathleen Turner, like we said, that voice. I don't think anybody could have pulled that voice off other than her.
I don't know that question can really be answered, because you could not make Roger Rabbit as it is today. Because the technology today, it's all done with computers. Roger Rabbit was hand-drawn animation drawn onto every single physical frame of film. It's a chemical process. It's a physical process. It's not a digital process. And I say that with total respect to the computer animation artists that we have today who have been able to do amazing things. But if they did Roger Rabbit today, it would not be the same movie. It wouldn't feel like it is. There was a reviewer at the time that Roger Rabbit came out who said, you have to go see it, you'll never see anything like it again. And in a lot of ways, he was right. Because from that point on, the technology went to the computers, and that hand-drawn animation lost the validity.
That's kind of like what you were saying. I mean, you say a lot is like shooting film and then shooting digitally. How many movies out there today are actually shot on film?
It's still about, in terms of Hollywood movies, I would say it's about 50-50, about maybe more like 40-60 now, film being 40. It's on its way out. It's dead, though.
Yeah.
And new filmmakers really don't have an opportunity to shoot on film anymore.
Well,
they
it's
just
because
don't.
it's costly, right?
It's beyond the cost. It's like, where are you going to get it developed? You have to be in a major city area that still has stuff. But all those places are going out of business.
Which is sad, because the thing is that you can definitely see a difference. There's definitely a quality. It's kind of like, black and white films, old films, versus once they switched over to color.
There's no reason for it to automatically be in color.
Yeah.
So there's always been a script for a prequel called Toon Platoon. So if they shot it today, you think it's automatically it's computerized. We're getting Space Jam.
There's no way
Looney
they would
Tunes
do
back
it.
in action.
There's no way they would do it the way that they
Although, I mean, they did break the mold when they made this film.
Mm-hmm.
They did break the mold by doing, something that had never been done before in this type of context. So, who knows? I mean, if they stayed true to the film, to the original film, and they actually shot it in the same way,
maybe.
I think
they won't.
I know,
that's
but,
the problem.
But the thing is like, if you think about it, if you had the same type of approach, if they brought in the same type of approach that they brought in when they shot Who Framed Roger Rabbit, coming into the sequel, and that was something that I think that they would do it. I think that they would put in that amount of effort, because they look at the amount of effort they put into making this one. If they had the same approach and did so, I think that they would lean towards doing it the same way.
It would have to be a really old... They couldn't get Robert Zemeckis to do it. Robert has crossed over to... And he shoots exclusively digitally now. And he says film is dead and stuff. And he's the one that did, like, Polar Express and Christmas Carol, and he did that in Beowulf.
Yeah.
I think he did Mars Needs Moms, too, but that was a huge bomb. But he is exclusively working in digital now, so he would be the first to say, no, let's do it this way and stuff. You're not going to find many directors who would still even consider doing it that way, and I don't know how in hell they would get the financing for it, because it'd be so costly.
Well, the thing is, and I don't think we've said this yet, but this film, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, was actually the most expensive film made in the 80s.
It's
with
absolutely
a budget
true.
of 70 or 80 million, something like that. But it did gross a huge amount of money.
It was for a while, it was number 20, the highest
It was
grossing.
20. And Who Framed Roger Rabbit opened in June 22nd, 1988 in America, grossing $11,226,239 in 1,045 theaters during its opening weekend.
Yeah.
The film went on to gross $156 million in North America and $173 million internationally, coming to a worldwide total of $329.8 million.
Yeah.
And at the time of release...
I could live on that.
Right?
That's a lot of Pop-Tarts.
Right?
At the time of release, Roger Rabbit was the 20th highest grossing film of all time, and the film also second highest in 1988, only behind the Academy Award winner Rain Man.
Rain Man.
And Roger Rabbit is so far the only animated / live action film to win 4 Academy Awards, and became the first animated film to win multiple awards since Mary Poppins in 1964.
Yep.
And I think that actually still holds up today.
I think it does too.
It's tricky to say, though, because there are lots of movies that are blending computer animation with live action. It's computer animation now.
Yeah.
So now would this be in the same category as like Avatar? Or are these two different categories? Because this is like animation, does that...
Well, I would separate them, but I would separate them because they're different mediums. But, I can... It's certainly the same ballpark.
Yeah.
And that's all I have to say about that.
All I have to say about that. So that's cool. So let's... do you recommend this for people who have never seen it? Yes?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, and the way we rate things on the Hangout is 5 stars. So out of 5 stars, JJ, what do you give it?
Oh, you're going to me first?
Are
Out
you
of 5 stars? Well, since it's in my top 10 category, I'd probably automatically give it at least 4, if not 5.
4?
I would give it a 4.
A 4. So
solid 4.
We're 8 for 10. And I'm going to give this a 5.
Yeah, like I said, it's in my top 10 list of favorite films to watch. So yes.
All right, guys. So that is our episode for the 1988 film Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yay!
And today we had Sam White, and you can check out Sam White Photo and Video Services on Facebook, right?
Yep.
Cool. We have JJ Harmon.
What up?
And JJ, where can people check you out at?
Everywhere.
All right. JJ Hartman.
Everywhere.
Her name will be in lights.
It'll be in lights. I'm on the television, the movie theater. No, I don't know. Yeah.
Google it.
Google.
You can Google JJ
You can
Hartman.
Google me.
She's
And
on IMDb
I
now.
am. I'm on IMDb and
Absolutely.
Google. I have my own fan page apparently.
You got your own
Pretty
fan
awesome.
page on the Facebook?
On the Facebook.
On the Facebook.
We love JJ Harmon.
We-
Apparently I have that.
And you can check me out, Gerald Yelverton. You can check me out at highlysober.com and Facebook /Highlysober Productions. All right, thanks, guys. And our next week, we will be talking about the Academy Award-winning Tom Hanks film, Forrest Gump.
Good night.
That's all I got to say about
That.
that. Thanks, guys. Thanks for being awesome. Peace.
When I walk in the door, and what do I see? He's passed out on the floor, and his girlfriend's checking out me. 25 minutes until we break. I'm so drunk, but it's okay. This is where the party's at tonight. It's gonna be alright. It's on tonight, gonna be alright.